And now it's time to preview an upcoming game with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan Metzler here, and today I am recently back from Gen Con, where I had a chance to play a lot of really great games. And this is one of those. It wasn't available for purchase, but it is going to be up soon on Kickstarter. Today we're going to take a preview look at Mars Needs Mechanics from Nevermore Games. Now, this is a game in which each player plays a mechanic trying to build a contraption that will be the first to get them to Mars in a competition in the country of Britain. It has a steampunk theme, and you're going to be manipulating a market by buying and selling different goods, and the order in which you buy them and sell them will change the market value, earning you money if you do it properly. Now, real quick, we'll get into the gameplay, and we'll look at the prototype components, and then we'll come back here and we'll get my summary of the whole thing. Here you can see the majority of the components for Mars Needs Mechanics. And reminder, these are prototype components. What you get in the final game off of Kickstarter may not reflect these exactly, but should be similar. Now, Mars Needs Mechanics is a game about inventing a machine for Britain that will be the first to take you to Mars. And you're going to do so by buying and selling components, trying to make the most money in order to impress the royalty. Now, in order to do so, you're going to be manipulating prices on this board. In this board, you'll see all of the components currently, all 7 of them, are valued at 5. But as you buy them, if they're more frequently bought or they're more recently bought, they'll go up in value. If you neglect buying them for a while, they'll go down in value, and some may stay the same. Each player is going to have a set of player markers. Really, one is just to show you who that player is, what color they are, and the other one is to show you what of the mechanics that will be available throughout the game they have built. In addition, each player is going to start with a couple of scrap metal cards, and I'll get into their use of these later. On top of that, each player will start with 30 money, and one player will start with the start player token. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're going to randomize these little tokens, and these tokens tell you how each of the goods is going to get adjusted when the adjustment phase of the game comes around. So you would simply randomize these and place them here. So for example, we have piping, and it's going to go down in value if no one buys it. Lenses will go down in value, as will Aether tubes, but we're going to have the boilers, which will stay neutral, gears, which will go up in value, magnets, and wires will all go up in value if no one were to buy anything. Now, all of these different types of components are represented by cards in the deck. So we'll see we have wires, and we have some scrap metal that shouldn't be in there, but boilers, Aether tubes, magnets, gears, lenses, and all sorts of other things. And at the beginning of the game, we're going to shuffle these. We're going to give 3 to each player, and then we're going to put out a market of them that you're going to be able to buy from. So we'll give 3 to our player here, and then we'll put out a market of 8 components that will be available for purchase on the player's turns. Now, on a player's turn, they can do 3 different things in theory. They can, 1, buy one of these cards for the current market value and adjust the position of that component on this track. 2, they can build what's called a mechanic, and these are available down here at the bottom. There are 10 different ones, and you'll choose 4 each game. Now, these modify gameplay. So, for example, the Aether Drive forces everyone else to pay 1 more cog for a specific type of good or component that they can get from the board. So for example, if the current value for gears was 5, and whoever built the Aether Drive said that gears cost 1 more, you would flip this little token over, and everyone who buys those has to pay 6 for gears. The difference engine says that you may sell components on your turn instead of during the next phase. The rocket booster says that you pay 1 extra cog, or you get 1 extra cog for each set of goods that you sell in the selling phase. And the X-ray goggles say that you can look at the top 3 cards of the deck during the sell phase before you sell and see what those cards are, either putting them back on top of the deck or on the bottom to plan for the next round. Now, as I said, you can buy one of these cards for the market value and add it to your hand, adjusting these rows on the increase or decrease of prices. You can build one of these, or if you've already built one, you can break one down. In order to build one of the cards, you have to play out the appropriate goods that are listed on the card. So we'll see here, the Aether Drive has a magnet and an Aether tube. So you would have to put a magnet and an Aether tube out in front of you, put your token on here, and it shows that you've built that. On a future turn, you could break it down, taking those cards back into your hand, and essentially getting them back available for sale. So on your turn, let's say you wanted to look at your hand, you'll see you have gears, you have pipes, and you have Aether tubes. So maybe you want to buy this piping from the market. you add it to your hand, and you pay $5, receiving 5 back from the bank, and moving the pipe up to the front of the line. You go on in this manner with each player having their turn, buying, maybe building or breaking something down, until everybody decides to pass. And on your turn you are allowed to pass and come back later on a future turn. So say you don't want to buy something now, maybe you want to wait until it's more advantageous to move it to the front of the line, because you don't want the value to decrease because several other people buy things in front of you. So if you're heavily invested in lenses, you don't want a situation like this to occur if you buy your lens too early, because when it shifts down, you're going to adjust the market prices, and they'll shift after everyone passes. So let's say everyone has now passed, and many of these items have been bought. Let's say it's something like this for some reason, and we'll shift all of these down. So we have a -1 to wiring. It goes down to 4. Piping also goes down, as do lenses. The Aether tubes will stay neutral, meaning they go nowhere, and the boiler, the gears, and the magnets all go up in value. So now they're worth 6. Anybody who invested in those is going to make a profit if they're able to sell. The rest of these cards will stay place, and we will continue on and refill those later. But first, everyone has a chance to sell cards from their hand. So let's say that through some strategic play, one of our players happens to have a set of pipes. In order to sell, you must have at least 3 of that type of card in your hand. Now, there is an exception to this because, as I showed you at the beginning, each player gets some scrap metal. So if you only had 2 in your hand, you could use 2 and a scrap metal in order to sell these. When you sell, you're going to get the current market value for each of the cards that matches the type. So in this case, I'm selling 2 pipings, and the scrap metal is just kind of a placeholder allowing me to sell. I would get 8 money. Not a great deal, as I likely paid more money for my piping. But if piping had been a higher value, and one of these was lower, we would take a look and we would see that I would get 12 money. Well, I only spent probably 10 money on these pipings, or maybe not even that if I started with one of them, so I'm going to make some money on the deal. If you're selling all 3, obviously you're going to get money for all 3 of the cards that you sell that match the type that's being sold. Everybody can sell as many cards on their turn as they are able to. Now, note, you get these 2 scrap metal at the start of the game, but once you use them, they are gone, and you will never have a chance to use them again unless one of these special cards, which there are 6 more of, lets you. After you've completed selling and everybody gets to sell in turn order once around the table, you're going to go back and you're going to reveal 5 more of these cards. Well, in this case 5, but you would reveal up to 8 cards. So we'd refill this, putting out 8 cards on the table, and the first player marker would rotate to the next player, who would then start again by either buying one of these, building something, passing or breaking something down, in order to go through again and try and collect sets that they can use in order to sell them for a higher value or build some of these mechanics. And you'll go through doing this over and over, buying, selling, adjusting the marketplace, until this deck of cards runs out, or no one buys anything for 2 turns straight. And if this happens, the game ends immediately. Now, at the end of the game, you go through one more sale round, and everybody who can sell stuff from their hand does so, making a little bit of money at the end of the game in order to try and shore up their reserves to win the competition. At that point, whoever has the most money is going to be the winner. Now, as I said, and I'd like to go over real quick, there are some of these extra cards that are included. So I'm going to go over them real quick and tell you what they do. We have the Compactor, which says return a scrap card to your hand once you build this, and you can only use this once during the game. We have the Component Sorter, which says that before you go through the market, you can replace a card in the market that's there. We have the Lockbox, which says that basically you can put a cog on one of the components, and if anybody buys that component, you get the cog that was on the card, as well as one from the supply, so it kind of pays you for someone else buying a component. We have the Disabling Device, which you can name any one of the other devices and have it disabled, meaning that everybody who has it currently has to break it down, and it can't be used anymore. We have the Chicken Caesar, which is an homage, of course, to Chicken Caesar by Nevermore Games. But we have the Chicken Caesar, which essentially you pay, and he will prevent other people from buying one of the cards on the board. And then we have the Automaton, which when built requires one of each of the goods, but is worth 40 points at the end of the game and cannot be unbuilt. As I said, using these, you'll select it, randomize the game a little bit, and play all the way through, and whoever has the most money at the end of the game is going to be the winner and the one who travels to Mars for Britain. And there you have it. That is Mars Needs Mechanics from Nevermore Games. This is a really simple game to play and learn. I guess the strategy isn't so simple, but learning the game definitely is. You simply buy something on your turn, or pass, or build a contraption, or break down a contraption, but in those buying and sellings is a little bit of subtlety of the market manipulation. You have to buy at the right time, or your purchase is going to be a bad one. If you buy too early and several people buy after you, the value of your component may go down, and then you've just lost money. But if you pass and wait too long to buy something, someone else may buy it before you, and then you've lost your chance to make that set of cards so that you can sell them later. Now, there is different strategies to buying and selling, or maybe focusing on those different mechanism cards, like the Aether contraptions, or your Automaton. There's the 40 points that you can get for building the Automaton, but if you do it too early, you get yourself into a situation where you can't afford to do anything else. So there's definitely a lot of strategy. The game plays well from 2 up to 4, maybe a little more chaotic with 4 and a little more controlled with 2. I think the sweet spot is really going to be 3 with this game, but definitely a good option for all 3 player options. And is one where you can really easily initiate someone to the game, but maybe can't get the full strategy down right away. I know I certainly am not able to know when to buy and sell things just yet. If all of this sounds good to you, you can definitely check the game out on Kickstarter. I'm sure they'd be glad to have your support, and maybe you can get yourself a few extra overfunding goals or Kickstarter bonuses to boot.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.